everybody. Hope you're having a glorious day and getting ready for the holidays. Mike and Josh here. I'm over in Colorado and Mike is in Brooklyn, so we figured we'd do something special for you guys today for the holidays.
It's coming over in my standard Brooklyn kitchen, and this is big for us. This is, we are in completely different states for the first time during the holiday season, so we wanted to challenge ourselves. We're going to do the $15 holiday challenge. So who can make the best meal? We've got dessert, we've got entree, and appetizer. Appetizer, entree, dessert.
So yeah, you went backwards. Hey, I like eating dessert, first sometimes. I'll usually order that. But the whole idea is simple. Like, we wanted to show you how creative you can get on a budget. A lot of times in the holidays, you're spending so much money on gifts and things, and you forget about buying the food. So what we've decided is to make this a bit of a challenge. So you guys are going to vote in the comments below whose food do you like better and why. And we're going to pick 2 people to win free merch from our site. So maybe a Brothers Green t-shirt, a poster, a mug, just like little extra Brothers Green holiday gift for you.
And this video is sponsored by our partner Smirnoff, and we are going to be making one budget drink. So be on the lookout for that. We wanted to use some of the ingredients on our budget to show you how to get really creative and make a simple cocktail perfect for the holiday season. So let's get into this challenge. And for me, this is what I bought right here. Eggs are always great on a budget. Milk, of course. I got a lot of classics. I have one butternut squash, so I'm going to be making a few dishes. I've got these very interesting deviled eggs. So a little take on a deviled egg. Then I have a butternut squash mac and cheese that I made for an entree. Ooh. And then I finished it off with a butternut squash flan. Josh, what do you got?
You go, girl. So for me, I wanted to do something different. I had a feeling you'd be doing
really? You wanted
to? So I tried to push it a little bit. And sometimes the holidays can be hard to get creative, but I think what we showed you guys is gonna be awesome. So for me, I made a stuffing meatball. So it's basically just like a holiday meatball right in there. It's delicious. And then I don't even know how to title this one, but it's basically like a spaghetti squash, like bebop holiday feast in a thing.
Illegal.
That was my sort of entree. Yeah, it's hard to even explain until you see it, but it turned out really delicious. For my dessert, it's a coconut pumpkin creme brulee. And it's freaking delicious. And it's not like your standard bullcrap creme brulee. So these are some of my ingredients. I left a couple of them out because I hadn't bought them yet, but these are a couple things that I bought to get creative with. One thing I will say about ingredients is I didn't spend the full $15. I wanted to have a couple bucks because I did use about 8 cents of cinnamon, 7 cents of clove, and like a splash of maple. So
see, I'm already losing trust. I have my receipt right here. Check this out, my receipt. I actually went 80 cents over. I took the $15 as you could actually anything within 15. So it's like 15.
Anything within 15. All of a sudden, I don't know where you're getting that extra money, but so I feel much better now knowing that you went 8 because I spent about 80 cents worth of bonus ingredients in my fridge, but I also didn't use all my ingredients.
I have a few bonus ingredients for you.
Okay,
so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back and forth. So we're gonna start out with the appetizer, and I did the deviled egg. So what I did, this is the first time I ever saw like a hack online that I actually did. Usually I'm like, that's kind of stupid. But there was this hack where you take a muffin tin and you spray it down with oil and you crack in the egg whites and the egg yolks in each separately in each little tin. Have you seen that, Josh?
No, I didn't even know that's possible.
So then you just bake that in the oven for about 10 minutes. So you have, these cooked little egg white cups, and then you take out the egg yolks. And what I did is I took the egg yolks, I put them in a blender, and I added a few things to that. I added a little tiny bit of milk just to kind of get it going. This is the only time I cheated on the entire challenge, but it came in the entree. I added just a little bit of parsley. I felt like if it didn't have that green in there, I would have been disappointed. And then just a tiny bit of hot sauce and some salt. And I blended that up and I got that, that egg yolk mixture.
But you bought hot sauce?
I said this is the only time I cheated during the challenge.
I thought you said just the parsley. Okay.
It just sounds bad because it only happened in the appetizer round.
Okay. So cheating early on. Early cheating.
Then what I did was I took some of that cheese. I had a package of cheese. I sprinkled some on parchment paper, just in little tiny dollops like that, and threw that in the oven. And I made some little crispy cheese, whatever, cheese crisp you could call them. And then to plate it, it was really simple. I just took the egg white in that cup form, popped on some of that yolk mixture, and then I topped it with those little cheese crisps. And you have these little sandwiches. I gotta say, the creativity pushed me past the deviled egg, and I think it tasted much better. It had more texture. It was just super fun little appetizer.
That actually sounds cool. When you first said deviled egg, I was like, I don't think so. This guy's lost, but you had me at baked and muffin tin. Still trying to understand how that works, though. For my appetizer, this is maybe more of a side. It's just like a fun way to get a lot of different things together. So if you've never had a spaghetti squash before, it's one of the coolest things ever. It's basically a squash that when you bake it, and you shred it, it kind of turns into almost like these like thin spaghetti-like strands. I know it's stretching it, but that's what it's called for a reason. So what I did was I took spaghetti. I took two things. I took a sweet potato, wrapped it in tin foil, and I cut spaghetti squash in half, scooped out the seeds, and I just baked that in the oven at like 425 until both of them were super tender. You'll know once you take a fork to the spaghetti squash, it kind of like shreds apart. So then I made a tomato sauce. I sauteed some garlic and onions, tossed that in the blender with some canned tomato sauce I bought and half of the roasted sweet potato. And I blended that up with salt and pepper, and it just made this like super flavorful sweet potato tomato sauce I've been putting on everything. Then separately, I cooked carrots, julienne, bell peppers, onions, and mushrooms, all in like little separate compartments. Then I shredded up all that spaghetti squash and mixed it with the tomato sauce. So it kind of was like this tomato sauce base, put it back into the skin of the spaghetti squash, and then just topped it with all the different vegetables. And just ended up with this, like, I don't know what you call it, but like just this really flavorful kind of like faux pasta Thanksgiving dish.
That's interesting. That could almost be an entree, no?
It could almost be an entree, and honestly, my entree could go on top of this for full. But like, I don't know. Like, it's kind of hard to say. It's definitely like sort of like a little veggie appetizer, which I thought was nice. Like, had a lot of flavor, but was not quite as heavy as your standard Thanksgiving stuff.
And that's actually, it's funny that leads into my entree. It seems like we had a similar idea with roasting squash, really getting a lot out of squash, especially because squash is super in season right now, and it goes a long way. You get this big sucker for like, I think mine cost me $3.50 or something. But what I used was a butternut squash, and I made mac and cheese with it. So the first thing I did was roast the butternut squash. And I'm telling you, I will never roast a butternut squash a different way. I just threw the whole thing in a casserole dish and put it in the oven at 450 for about, let's say 50 minutes to an hour, and then just shut the oven off after that and just let it cook through. And then what you do is once you can really like push at it and starts to push in like that, you're cooked. And you take it out and you just slice it right in half, and you can scoop out the seeds. And it's so much easier to scoop out the seeds when it's cooked. The skin actually just peels right off. It's
falls off the bone.
That if there's any trick you can take out of this whole video, just use that one. So easy. And now you have this beautiful puree. So I'm going to use that for my next two dishes. So to make the mac and cheese sauce, I added milk to a little saucepan, and then I added half of the puree, saving half for my dessert. I grated in a little bit of ginger. Ginger is a great budget aromatic just to add flavor. Hit it with some salt, and I just brought that to a boil. And then I took an immersion blender and just blended that up until it was nice and creamy. So then I added cheese and a little more milk to thin it out. So you could basically leave out the cheese if you're not a fan of that. I stirred that around, and that is a beautiful cheese sauce, flavor however you'd like, or season to your liking. So then I took my pasta and I cooked it just a little bit under. They call that a little al dente. And I added some frozen broccoli to that. So this is going to be a broccoli butternut squash mac and cheese. And then I poured in my sauce and just mixed that around. You can season that with a little salt, get it to the right point. And then I took a casserole dish and I spread in all of that mac and cheese, hit it with some more cheese on top. threw that in the oven at about 400 degrees for 20 to 30 minutes until it's nice and golden brown. That cheese is crispy and the pasta is just cooked through. Look at that yumminess right now.
That sounds pretty amazing. Mac and cheese is like always a guaranteed delicious. So it's cool you had the butternut squash. I find. I know
You're
you
saying I guaranteed win? Because it's
no,
guaranteed.
not guaranteed win. I think you did a video where and for your vegan challenge where you did like just with butternut squash. Like there's something about butternut squash roasted and blended makes it an amazing sauce.
It's a really good, you could add what's that stuff?
Nutritional yeast.
Yeah, if you want some cheesy flavor.
I did that in the Mexican vegan taco video.
Yeah.
Made this butternut squash or sweet potato or something. But that sounds good. I'm down for some mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Mac and cheese. For my entree, I wanted to do like a holiday meatball, like a stuffing meatball, just that has like everything in it. So you can kind of go as crazy as you want. I kept mine a little bit more simple. I ended up getting ground chicken, which was cheaper than the ground turkey. Of course, you can choose what you want, but I think I like chicken a little bit better. So what I did was I sauteed a bunch of carrots, onions, garlic, mushrooms, and jalapenos just in some oil, salt, and pepper. Kept it really simple. I just cooked that down until it was nice and like soft and a little bit caramelized. Then I let that cool and I mixed it into the meatballs, adding some more salt and pepper with a bunch of chopped up parsley. And you just make this super colorful meatball. You could add, if you had like breadcrumbs, would be amazing. You could add eggs. You could add like little bits of bread, but I couldn't afford it, so I didn't have it. But the idea is just to get as much as you humanly can into this meatball. And I've seen meatballs like with different things, but I'd never seen like all these veggies in it. So then I just basically sauteed them up and fried them up in little meatball form. And then I just served them over rice. And what was really cool about these meatballs is like when you're eating them, you're getting a lot of different textures. I didn't really expect that. But you're basically getting like the carrots in there. You're getting, there's also some jalapenos, like mushrooms. So it doesn't taste like your standard meatball. It feels like you're eating all of the holiday in every bite.
Wait, so you had rice on your budget? I missed that.
Rice on my budget. I just kind of wanted to have like a little bit of a base.
Got it.
And then I also like with that sauce from before, you could totally dip the meatballs in that sweet potato tomato sauce.
I forgot you were the meatball master until now. That was always Josh's thing. If you look back in the early videos, the guy, he knows how to get creative with a meatball.
And these were really simple, but they were also extremely delicious. And I was obsessed with them and eating them for breakfast. Like, I had a lot of them, so throwing them in eggs the next morning, and the meatballs are just great. Party.
So I want to show you this drink, this budget drink that I whipped up. I think that's some bonus points that I created this thing.
I don't think so.
So it was sort of a play off a White Russian because I had the milk, and also White Russian is one of the best vodka drinks, especially in this season, in the winter season. And it was really simple. Instead of using cream, I just used the milk I had. I took vanilla flavored Smirnoff, which was great because that saves me an ingredient on my budget, of course. So I added some of that to a mixer. Then I added some milk in there and I just grated in a little bit of ginger because I had that in my budget as well. I thought the vanilla and the ginger would pair really nicely with the creaminess. Added on a bunch of ice and just shook it up real nice, got it super chilled, poured that into a glass with some ice. That's an awesome play on a White Russian, and it was freaking good and so cheap to make.
I think you're like that guy in the competition. You know those cooking competition shows where there's always the chef who like quickly whips up the drink and gives it to the judges? I think that's what you did there. I'm always
right.
like, that's all just cheated.
Oh, you're right. I just pulled that one out for all you guys.
But for sake of voting, that doesn't really count. You're focusing on the three dishes.
No, you can make the decision on your own. All right, the dessert round. Wow, this really is like a cooking competition. We are going into the dessert round. We have both made it to the final round.
Cue the intense music.
So for the dessert, I made a butternut squash flan. I had the perfect ingredients. I had all the eggs and the milk to make a custard. So let's get into it. I took a saucepan and I heated up about 2 cups of milk. Then I added half a cup of sugar until that dissolved in there. And you really just want to warm it up. You don't need it boiling. Just bring it up to a little simmer when you start seeing some bubbles. Then I whisked together 5 eggs, just whole eggs. That was pretty much all the rest of the eggs I had. and I added half of the butternut squash puree that I had from the mac and cheese and just a little bit of salt to bring out all the flavor. Then I slowly started to incorporate the hot milk, and this is called tempering. You don't want to cook the eggs, so just slowly start whisking that in a little drop at a time, and then just keep whisking it in until you have a nice custard. Then the last step for that custard is I put it through a strainer because the butternut squash wasn't exactly, as silky smooth as I wanted it. So once it goes through the strainer, that's going to give you a perfect texture. The last step is you're going to sprinkle in some sugar, about a half cup to a cup, in the bottom of a saucepan, and just cook that until it turns to caramel on a pretty low heat. Basically, you're just melting it down, and once it melts, you're going to pour it into some type of mold like this. I had different sizes. Pour that in and just turn it around till it completely coats the bottom, and then it's going to turn hard just like candy. Once it turns hard, you're going to pour that custard over, and then I added those to a hot water bath. I just poured in some hot water into this little dish right here. That's going to make it cook nice and evenly. I put it in the oven and baked it at about 350 mine took a little over an hour. And then when that comes out, you basically want it to kind of set. So it's not going to have a super jiggle to it. It's going to firm up. And then make sure you put that in the fridge for at least 4 hours. So take a knife and cut around the butternut squash. And then here you go, slow motion action. Skadoosh. That is perfect right there. And one little bonus for you guys, I actually took the seeds from the butternut squash and I roasted those with a little cinnamon, some nutmeg, some of that sugar I had, a little ginger, roasted those, and I topped that thing with some of those seeds for the perfect crispiness. Boom, shakalaka. Take that, Josh. What do you got for me?
That's pretty good, although you did use some, you said you only cheated in the first one, but you also used some cinnamon and stuff there, so not going to let you get away with that.
Throw me a bone.
Right. Well, I'm just saying that it's okay if I use it because you use it. So keep that in mind. So that sounds really good. Flan, it's interesting. We made a similar dessert in some ways. Mine, I think creativity on the simplicity. So what I did, and I've been just like loving this recently. So I basically took a can of pumpkin, just like pumpkin puree. I took some coconut milk and I took the cream from the coconut milk and mixed that with the pumpkin. And then I'm making this base right now. So normally creme brulee would be kind of similar to what Mike did with like lots of mixing and measuring, and then you throw that out the window. So what I did,
Josh
I mixed
can't
it.
handle that.
I can't handle it. Measuring cups on this channel, I don't think so. So I took the pumpkin, I took the cream from the coconut milk, mixed that together, added a little salt, added just a little bit of like cinnamon and sort of whatever, like, allspice, clove, ground if you have that. Added a tiny splash of maple and like vanilla, just to kind of like sweeten it up. You're basically whatever like flavorings you have. If you have sugar, if you got maple, you got honey, whatever, just mix it in there. All that matters is that you taste this and it tastes freaking delicious, right? So you do that and mix that together. And then at this point I put it in a ramekin. And if you want, you could do it raw, but I just like threw it in the oven or microwave. You can mic it for 2 minutes, or you could just toss it in the oven at 350 for a few minutes just to kind of get it set a little bit. Then put it in the fridge and let it just chill out. Then once it gets cool, take it out, sprinkle sugar on top of it, and then just torch it. If you don't have a torch, you can put it in the broiler, but you're just torching the top and you're making creme brulee.
What makes it set? I don't get it.
So just like heating it up a little bit, it kind of changes the texture. I'm not going for like a flan kind of thing. Like it's just very creamy inside. And what's cool is the mixture of pumpkin and the coconut cream just together, they kind of like mimic creme brulee without having all the cream and the eggs and everything. And it's so delicious. You get the top, and once it's creme brulee, it's crispy. And you go in there and you scoop it up, and it's like this amazing.
So like, Josh made the beginner's version of what I just told you. So if you want like the legit advanced, just go with mine, and then if you want to downgrade, go with Josh.
No, here's the thing. I think that like with holidays, and I mean yours sounds delicious, but in holidays there's definitely like lots of cream and butter and sugar. So I think we kind of showed you both sides. If you want like the indulgent stuff, Mike definitely hits you on like the full on like indulgent. Mine was a little more like on the lighter side, but still filled with flavor.
A little
You
healthier. Yeah.
Little healthier,
So guys, make sure you vote below Josh or Mike for a chance to win some goods from our shop. And hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you like it. That's it.
If you don't
Holidays
like
on a budget. I got to say, this really
Peace.
did bring out a lot of creativity. It's so fun to get creative on that budget. You really push it. I made some things that I never would have made.
Yeah, it was definitely cool. Actually, you can do polls now on YouTube on our like fan page, and I just polled people, and like 35% of people want to see more budget stuff. So there you guys go.
Oh, nice. All right. Later, guys.
Have fun.